Welcome to the Vital Tradition Podcast. In this episode, the boys of Vital Tradition sit down to talk turkeys before we all head out for a Ohio trip. This was a power hour episode, so sometimes things are going to go off the rails. We had a great time recording this podcast, and we hope you enjoyed as well. Here's episode 8, part 1.
Me and Dustin were talking the other day, and we were talking about that Meat Eater podcast with about the turkey caller and his incidents in the woods, and he had been shot twice while hunting public land, and they all just talked about like, oh, you were calling on public land, like, yeah, that's like a no, you just don't do it. That's like they just talked about it like it was like just known knowledge. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, that's kind of important. Why wouldn't you? And it all makes sense. Why wouldn't you? Because, you know, a lot of turkey hunting is listening to gobbles, trying to go to gobbles. So if someone's really good at calling.
Well, you got to be, so here's where you got to be more specific for me, because hearing your response to the podcast and how I took the podcast, I'm not through it all, but I'm through that part of it.
Yeah.
And my take was I actually could make a mental separation. It's like calling on public land as a hen didn't raise any hackles for me listening to that.
Right. Oh, I see. He was caught. Yeah, I see.
He was gobbling.
He was gobbling.
And he got shot twice gobbling. So
100%.
Somebody in the springtime in most states coming through, unless they're being blatantly illegal shooting a hen, are not going to, even if it's a hunter that wants to shoot in the dark at noise, which you should never do.
Right.
They're not going to shoot at a hen in the dark at noise.
Right.
But as soon as you gobble, okay, now they're going to think you're a Tom and they're going to shoot. That was my take from that. Now, both are incorrect. You should never shoot without confirming your target. Like, that's just wrong.
Right.
And they went over that in the podcast. But he said, it's like, you could tell that he knew by gobbling on public land, it was different than hen calling.
Yeah.
He made a distinction in his own description of the story that was different than if you were just hen calling on public land.
100%. And it definitely makes sense, because in the fall, you're trying to call what you want to kill. So if you want to kill a gobbler, you call like a gobbler. But in the spring, it should be, unless you're on really pressured land and the hen calling, you've thrown the entire book at them with the kitchen sink included, you're not getting anything coming back, then yeah, sure, throw a gobble out there. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it was a really good podcast. Like, you know, because I said this will be my first turkey season. Dustin, you got one. We're all new to turkey, so
yeah.
So it was enlightening, to say the least. There was a lot of good knowledge passed off in that freaking podcast.
I think gender and season aside, though, it definitely opened my eyes to turkeys in general, and specifically spring, because of the blaze orange thing. So like in the fall, you have to wear blaze orange because you're overlapping with deer. So like you don't have the issue. I mean, you don't have to wear blaze orange if you're just turkey hunting, but you're in a blind. Like you're probably, I don't know. I'm going to wear blaze orange because I'm probably deer hunting. And then I'm just like incidentally turkey hunting. I'm not going out and just turkey hunting in the fall. I did it once, but it's just, I don't know. I guess it depends on when you're going. What I'm trying to say is in the spring, you don't have to wear orange. So like you're just camoed up, and it opened my eyes to the possibility of somebody, blasting you with shotgun that can't see you. I mean, you might be hunting the same flock. Like, let's say you're not even pulling them in by calling, and they're trying to stalk you thinking you're a turkey. You know, I don't, it's almost like flattery to think that we're good enough to call that somebody's going to shoot us thinking we're a bird, but that's kind of not the point, God knows I'm not that good at calling. We're just starting off, especially, but the fact that you're camoed up sitting either in a blind or behind a tree, and you talk about low light conditions, and you got two people that don't know they're in the same spot hunting the same flock, Yeah, shot's going to fly. And that's something I didn't necessarily think about. And the public land I hunted last year when I got my first bird, there's only one parking lot where you can access the land that I hunted. Like the flock of turkeys I knew where they were from scouting, you only could park in one spot to get to that flock. Like if you got there from any other way, you're talking quite literally like over a mile of like a path that nobody's walking normally. Like you're a couple miles from the next closest parking lot, you're through a marsh, nobody's coming the other way. People are going to park where I parked. Yeah. I was the only car in the parking lot when I parked, and where we set up, we were facing where you would walk to where we set up. So I would see any other hunter walking in.
Right.
So that thought never crossed my mind where we hunted, but it's definitely going to be in the back of my mind going forward if I'm going to set up on other pieces of this public or other public pieces going forward.
Yeah, I think that's just a general rule when hunting public. Never assume you're the only hunter in the woods, no matter what parking lot you access or what land the topography of the land you're hunting. You should always assume there's someone else out there hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to stay away. I try to spot the goobers, but
I think when you're stationary, you're right, Dustin. I think that's hard to overcome. I mean, if you're camoed up, you're calling to the same birds. They try and, at least a lot of the material manufacturers and a lot of the companies out there give you some kind of blaze orange. Like my turkey vest actually has a detachable flag for when you're on the move. I slap it on. It's got 2 buttons, just clips on real quick while you're on.
I've got one too. You can flap out, but you're talking a square that's like the minimum legal whatever, and it's what, 9 inches by 9 inches,
right?
Somebody's not going to see that from 40 yards away between brush and thicket, and in low light they're going to see a moving object and hear it gobble. You can shoot you. Like those people that are going to shoot are going to shoot. A 9-inch square orange ain't going to change anything.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Those people who are going to shoot are in the wrong.
Correct.
I mean? They're in the wrong, but they're still out there.
Yeah. That's exactly the point. Like, we're not talking about the people that are going to break the law, period. It's like the people that want to try and protect themselves from those people, right? Yeah. It's like, what can you do to put yourself in a position to not get shot by some asshat?
Right.
I don't know. Just be aware that you could be calling to turkeys. You could be making calls, and somebody could be stalking your calls thinking you're a bird.
Yep.
So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind, which it wasn't. And most likely is not in the most minds of beginner hunters. You're just so focused on your first bird, your first, like there's so many other things to really, really hammer down the focus. It's so easy to forget that somebody might be fucking up behind you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not on the forefront. Like, yeah, we all say it now sitting in our house because it's not hunting season. It's easy to think about it now. A lot harder when you're sitting out there. Really, you got some Tom strutting in front of you, like you're focused on your first bird. Somebody shoots you in the back, thinking you're the bird. Like that's not going through your mind.
Right. I mean, that was listening to the podcast. That was the part that, like, I was like, yeah. I mean, I've personally, hunting almost exclusively public land. Whether it be out in Lake Erie for waterfowl or whatnot, you run into those people that think like spots are theirs.
Oh yeah, all the time. You can't
beat them.
Oh yeah.
Or you run into people who are just, you're like, how are you? Maybe they're just not, they're not all there. And we've seen that also on public land in Wisconsin, where we had a bow hunter try to put a stalk on a decoy we had out with one antler, and it was a tiny like decoy. I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he's literally trying to stalk in an open field on a freaking decoy.
Oh man. I still can't believe that happened. I just can't.
So the people are out there,
but they're out there. People are going to put a stock on your one antler or raggedy decoy.
People in the, who want to show up at 9:30 and then, walk by your spot and maybe give you your life story for the entire morning about how they traveled from Michigan to hunt up in Wisconsin. And you make a new friend for life.
Right. Your hunt's ruined, but new friend.
Yeah, they're usually named Brad. They're always good guys, though. Always good guys.
I didn't plan on hunting this morning there, Brad. Yeah, let's just keep talking.
Yeah, I was actually over here before the sun came up because I had to take a shit, and I just was trying to get about 75 yards away from the parking lot. I had a nice quiet spot, and I just heard some rustling, and here you were. So here, let's just have a chat.
But back to your point, Dustin, about focus and about being new in the turkey woods. I had a story from last hunting season. So last hunting season with the turkeys for me was the spring season. Was the first with a shotgun. I hunted turkeys with a recurve bow, which if you can call that hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, laugh or not, I actually had 2 birds within shooting range. It would have been shooting range for a shotgun, but I botched both attempts. Bow. Yes, the first one I wouldn't have had a shot with the bow anyways. I messed up a stalk, which you shouldn't stalk a turkey first off. And then the second one I messed up because I didn't have my weapon at the ready when the bird came within 10 yards. So.
You didn't have your bow at full draw?
No.
You don't just walk around at full draw?
You don't just, with your recurve, you just don't have it at full draw all the time?
Sweet sauce, man. Full draw all the time.
We gotta make sacrifices, brother.
No, I had so much stacked against me that hunt. I was just learning to call. I was using a recurve bow. It was late season, so when I was calling, I didn't realize how quickly the bird would gain on me, and I wouldn't be able to hear it until it was
and be quiet, right? So they're going fast and quiet.
Yes. So I had no clue he was closing the distance as fast as he was. He was on top of me. I peeked around the tree and he flew off. so yeah.
I like your mug, huh?
Did you decide after a successful recurve morning dove season, like turkeys would just go smash these?
The issue was the target size. Yeah.
What broadhead were you using?
Sorry, that was a little bit of a distraction. But anyways, so it was my first season with a shotgun with an actual chance to take down a turkey.
Only one though. Only one shot.
That's all you need.
Single shot shotgun. Yes. Yes. So I was at Deer Creek and I was I happened to get there pretty much right at shooting light, which is later than I wanted to be. I slept in.
On. Do you hear that?
I hear a dog.
No, I can't hear anything. What is that?
Yeah.
Hold on. Your recurve bow barking at you for talking badly.
Hold that spot in the story. I'll edit all this shit out.
I got a new turkey call, and I've been practicing. It's a diaphragm call, and I'm actually getting the hang of it. You
didn't have a diaphragm last year?
I did, but dude, I couldn't figure that shit out. Like I had 2 last year, and they're not,
Yeah, I thought you had one at Uncle Ray's.
I did, and it was El Cheapo, and it was not good. It was a single reed, and I don't know. I upgraded a little bit this time around, and sometimes you actually get what you pay for. And also, I've been just spending more time practicing.
What'd you get?
So it's a Primos. I can't remember the name of it.
Just they got all sorts of names. Sure.
It's a triple reed with a bat cut.
Yeah.
So
that's what I had too. Like the 3 triangles.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, the Woodhaven Ninja. Same that one's the THP ran. I got the 2 that so Aaron and Zach, the 2 that they ran, I got that last year. They worked okay, but they had in their recent episode, something just kind of hit me watching it with their current season in Florida. It's you got to get a diaphragm call that fits your mouth. It doesn't really matter the brand or the price. It's you got to find what fits your anatomy, for calling. And Zach that Ninja just fits him. And I think I'm going to start looking for that a little bit because they're the diaphragms aren't super pricey. So I think each year I'm going to try a new, one new one and just add to my arsenal or detract if it doesn't work out. But I want to find something that works without kind of dumping 50 in front of me on one season, and just kind of being crazy. But it sounds like it's more of a feel thing than it is I got to get a Woodhaven or I got to get a Primos, or this is the call. It's no, it's kind of more like a shotgun or a pistol. There's some feel and finesse involved. And it's a function, over brand, if that makes sense.
To your point, Primos actually has I think it's called the Cutaway, and it's been on the market for a couple of years now, but it's actually got pre-marked lines around the whatever the paper portion is, or the
Yeah.
the non-aluminum portion, that you can cut away like certain portions of it at a time to get to a smaller diameter, so it fits in your
Sure.
mouth if you have a small mouth. So rather than, like you said, dumping on a whole bunch of calls, you can try one call and cut it down to size.
Yeah.
All right, the dogs are done.
Welcome back.
Yeah. I can't leave them outside the whole time.
Your dogs were barking.
Dogs are barking.
So I was at this new hunting area, and I got there right at shooting light, which is later than I wanted to be. Obviously, you should be in the woods quite a bit before shooting light when you're hunting turkeys. I was new to calling, so I had taken up an owl call, and I let out an owl, what I thought was a barred owl call. In retrospect, probably not even close, but it got something fired up. I heard a gobble in the distance, so I kind of made my way towards this. I ended up finding out it's an oak flat in between two ridges across a creek bottom. So I ended up crossing a field and then crossing the creek bottom, and I was kind of down. I was down slope, or I guess below the turkeys, so to speak. And I kept hearing what I thought was another hunter calling these birds. So I could hear 3 distinct gobbles. There were 3 toms, just what I assume were strutting. They were in a strutting zone, displaying for the females. So I get down below them, and I hear what I thought was another hunter calling. It sounded like there were, probably 2 hunters talking to the same birds. And I ended up finding out later that there weren't actually any hunters there. That was just real live turkey talk. Like the hens were just talking to the toms that were there. But I found that out by showing some restraint. So I could have gone up the hill and tried to put the stock on these birds, just putting aside the knowledge that, yeah, there's probably another hunter talking to these birds. And I didn't even have it in the realm of possibility that these were real turkeys talking to other real turkeys. Like, it was first in my mind that there was another hunter in the woods calling them. So etiquette and safety was telling me, don't try and engage with these toms. So I ended up just sitting there for probably half an hour or an hour, just listening to them. And then the chatter kind of stopped. So I thought, okay, well, maybe they've wandered off. And I just kind of took a roundabout way. I circled above them on the ridge, and I looked down and saw that they had made their way to the field further on private property. So that's a long story to say, yes, your first instinct on public land should be to think that another hunter is in the woods. And if they've already engaged birds, don't try and engage with them.
Yeah, that's probably a good plan.
Right. But also in your story is you just were on a giant mass of actual turkeys, and you probably should have gone up and engaged them. I feel like you take that either way.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, you can, but yeah, should it have gone the other way? I see what
Maybe don't stalk them. Maybe just see if there's don't blow up the hunter's thing. But like, if you're downhill and I guess it depends on where you perceive the turkeys are in relation to you as far as distance. So like, are they 150 yards away, 200 yards away? If you go up the hill, are you still going to have another 50 yards or 100 yards between you and the birds, or are they literally right above you? And if you move, you're going to blow them up. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to disperse the flock and somebody's working them right above you? Or if you go up and look and see if there's somebody sitting there hunting them, and you can back off and without disturbing it, versus, you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of walking up there and blowing it up.
Oh yeah, I know absolutely what you're saying. So in that situation, I was probably 70 yards or so from the birds down, and I was kind of pretty much right at the creek, where the creek cuts off this ridge from the bottom, or the field on the other side. And I knew that, and typically when you're calling turkeys, they'll respond in an uphill fashion. So if you're above them, they'll come to you. If you're below them, they generally won't. Sometimes there's exceptions to every rule. But knowing that they likely weren't going to respond to my calling, I was going to have to approach them, and knowing that my head would be the first thing to clear the top of that hill.
Well, yeah, you make a good point.
I was a little hesitant to, put that out there.
Do you carry like an orange Browns helmet, like an offensive tackle's helmet or something that you just pop up over the hill with?
I do carry. I have whenever I'm on the move, I wear my blaze orange cap. I just do.
Yeah,
That's
that's
smart.
smart. I think, you brought up a good point, and I was thinking about this after listening to that episode. I'm like, I need to start packing something just super, super tight that doesn't take up barely any room in whatever thing I'm carrying, backpack, fanny pack, whatever, an orange poncho and an orange hat.
Yeah.
And roll it super tight and always have it on me. And then whenever I'm either on the move, in or out, or packing out an animal, like I'm just going to put on an orange poncho and a hat so that I can tote my turkey. Because like last year I walked out of the woods and I it never fazed me. I was so fired up about harvesting my first bird last year on property.
Right.
And I was with another veteran hunter who we were just high-fiving and nobody else was around. We got back to the parking lot. We were still the only truck in the parking lot. We were the only ones on like probably over 100 acres, like by ourselves. It was awesome. And I'm toting a turkey with a turkey tote over my shoulder and I'm just hanging a bird. Like the only orange on me is that 9-inch square behind me. Everything else is camo. And I got a real bird hanging. Like I could have easily got blasted walking out of there if it was like a high population area or high population density of hunters. But it just wasn't the case. But now going back through my mind, I'm going to get an orange poncho big enough that if I want to tote a turkey over my shoulder and I don't want to pack them out in a backpack or whatever, or a vest, I'm going to put an orange rain poncho over the bird while I tote it. So everything's orange, like and the turkey's under the poncho. And there's no question he's orange and it's like daylight. So nobody should be packing a turkey out if the sun's not up. It's just not a thing. I mean, you can shoot them when it's legal, but you get gray light. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's weird. Maybe just stay put, let the turkey sit there until the sun comes up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just be smart about it on public land. Private's different story, I guess.
You've also already made one change from last season, and I would recommend any new turkey hunter. So last year you hunted with an all black shotgun. It generally recommended to have some kind of camo. The black can look like a turkey to non-educated folk or folk that want it to look like a turkey. So use a camo or a camo wrapped gun.
Well, not only that, but with the turkeys, their eyesight is also really solid. And black is not a naturally occurring color anywhere in nature. There's just
but it's great for a blind. So if you're going to hunt in a blind, the black shotgun is very nice. Just maybe take some precautions when you're in transit, like we just talked about, in and out. Or if you're going to sit exposed, then buy the $15 camo mesh netting and drape it over yourself. If you don't want to camo your gun, that's another cheap option to do. Guys do that all the time when they're shooting film, like the THP, whatever, all those shows. They just literally buy, the camo drape netting. It's $15 to $40, and they drape it over their tripods. They drape it over, like they're not running camo painted guns. They're running straight up either real walnut or faux walnut stock, black and blue shotguns. They're not running anything special. And they've done it in a lot of states and they don't have an issue. But the transit, just be mindful. Like they're generally not in a blind, but if you're going to be in a blind, black's the way to go. You want to be blacked out when you're in a blind. You don't want to be camoed up.
No, I think it doesn't matter. If you got that much shadow, camo's not going to pop.
No, but I mean, nobody's going to if you have the option between the two, everybody's going to take black every time if you're in a blind. If all other things being equal, black is a better option in a blind.
Give two thoughts to it.
No, I'm agreed. I'm not saying go out and buy a new gun or buy new clothing. I'm just saying if you have all things else being equal, you want to be black inside of a blind if you want to actually blend in.
Yeah, I would.
I think for the most part, though, turkey hunters are generally mobile and on the go. I think especially new hunters are really excited about. I mean, turkey hunting in general is such a fun, engaging hunt that's so different from deer hunting, at least in the classic Midwestern ambush style sense, like where you're just sitting in one spot waiting for some animal to come to you. Turkeys, you can get after them. You can be as aggressive or as passive as you want to be in a lot of situations. So for the new hunter starting out, that's going to be mobile unless you're, unless you know of a field where they're frequenting, that they're feeding in heavily, or if you know that, it's going to be raining that day and they're going to be out in open areas that you can set up with a blind. So the turkeys, as opposed to deer, just kind of furthering that comparison, turkeys aren't really shy about blinds. Deer, if you set up a blind in a new spot in a certain, like, that they haven't seen before, and you hunt it that day, they're generally not going to come anywhere near bow or rifle range. They get pretty freaked
or
out
you'll
about
get
the
lucky
blind.
and that'll be the only chance you get, and then they're for sure gone forever. It's one or the other. You're either going to spook the crap out of them, or you're going to get one chance.
The turkeys don't care. You can set up a blind and they'll be like, okay, I'll accept that as part of my new reality. That's fine. So for the new hunter in general, I would probably lean towards gear that's made for being mobile and out in the open. So
I think there's a caveat to that though for new hunters, and I think the caveat is if it's your absolute first thing you're ever hunting versus your first time hunting turkeys. And the reason I make that caveat is because if it's your first time ever hunting, you're going to move a shit ton because you have no idea how hard it is to hold completely still. And if you don't have a blind, you want to talk about the fastest way to get blown up by a turkey, go ahead and sit without a blind and realize that you just are jittery all the time. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of camo you got on, what color gun you got. There ain't no turkey going to come hanging out by you. If you're going to be jumping all over the place, your legs moving 100 miles a minute, or you got some sort of nervous twitch, you're looking around 5,000 times, looking around you. The first hunter ever should probably do a combination of the two things. They should go scout land that they want to hunt, and don't worry about spooking anything or camoing. Put on a pair of jeans and go bust brush. Go find turkeys. Blow up the flock, whatever. Don't worry about anything like that. Go find turkeys. Same thing for deer. Like that, I think if you want to really expedite your learning curve, go find the animal you're looking to find before you try and hunt it. If you try and hunt it for the first time ever and you've never hunted anything in your life, you're going to baseline be overcautious. You're going to set up on a field edge because you're afraid of spooking something. You're not going to go as deep as maybe you would have if you had scouted or had the knowledge of a spot that works. So do yourself a favor, shorten the learning curve. Go find fresh sign, whether it's the animal itself, whether it's tracks, rubs, if we're talking deer, feathers, dusting areas, scratches, et cetera, for turkey. Find the turkeys themselves. Like that just seems obvious, but it's not. Like when you go and walk into a section of woods and you look around like, okay, there's nothing here, but like maybe there will be. And if you've never hunted, you have no idea. It's overwhelming to look at a map and say, well, I have no idea where things are going to be. Go for a hike. It's the best thing I can tell you. Just go for a hike. Take this piece of public, open it up on maps, get like Onyx or something, find the borders of your public land that you can legally hunt, and just walk trails. Start off with the trails that are already beaten, log roads, whatever, and just walk them and pay attention to where you see things that might be sign of things that you're trying to hunt, deer, turkey, whatever. Once you get a rough idea where you might have success, so like you've already elevated your baseline. You're not just coming in cold to a cornfield 50 yards from a parking lot and setting up shop on the edge of it and assuming something's going to walk by, when in reality, the only thing that's going to walk by is another hunter that parked there a half hour before you and is like, you just blew up my hunt. I'm going to walk by you to go to my truck. Go walk, go scout, then set up a blind in an area where you scouted and you found something. And if you didn't find something your first day, go scout again. Don't just go hunt. Hunt when you know you're going to be in the game. And it's going to seem hard when you're first starting. Like an absolute beginner, it's going to seem counterintuitive. It's like, no, I just want to hunt. I just want to learn. Like, you will learn more if you just hold yourself back a little bit from the hunting part and find fresh sign and then set up. You will have more of a chance than some haphazard setup, which you're probably going to shortchange yourself and set up too close to your truck on the first time. It just, coming from experience, that's how I did it. The first 2 years I hunted, I set up shop probably within 100 yards for the first year, period. And I just didn't feel comfortable going into the woods, and I didn't know what I was looking for. I never saw a deer. I never saw a fresh sign. I saw some sign, but it wasn't fresh. I really kind of didn't know what I was looking for. And so it took 2.5, 3 years before I was like, oh, well, I got to find where the deer are. Then, and like once those pieces started to come together, it was an exponential growth curve. So that's my recommendations. You do a hybrid, you go find the birds, then set up in a blind because you are a new beginner hunter. You haven't practiced the slow movements. What can I get away with? You don't know yet. So put yourself in the game with location, set up the blind so that you can shorten the learning curve on actually harvesting an animal. And then you can take the blind away once you kind of figure out some of the other pieces, but maybe do both, maybe have that option in your mind, I don't know. Not everybody's going to start that way, but that's just like a nugget, like just take pieces of each one and kind of play with it, like based on your physical ability, your personality, like know yourself. Like, are you somebody that can sit still? Great. Then maybe you don't need a blind right away. Are you somebody who sits and like shakes their leg for 45 minutes straight? Maybe you want to start with a blind,
Right. And you can do what you're saying, Dustin. You can do all aspects of a hunt year round outside of carrying your weapon in the woods. And then obviously the end goal of actually harvesting game. But the actual, all the techniques and skills necessary to get to that point of harvesting game, you can practice those year round. You can go in the woods. You can practice stalking. You can practice moving silently through the woods. You can practice sitting still. And squirrel hunting is the same way. That's a great way because both turkeys and squirrels, like with squirrel, you can literally go in, like I've done it. You can go in blue jeans and a red and black flannel and sit against a tree. None of that is natural. They don't give a shit about the colors. They don't care. But movement, they really care about.
Yeah.
And so you can practice that holding still, waiting till their sight's blocked before you can move, and just pretending to be a freaking statue in the woods, basically.
A flannel statue.
Yes. Because, I mean, I don't have, dogs that hunt squirrels outside of my backyard. And so I'm mostly a sit and stalk. I know where the squirrels are. I just kind of, I sneak in, I sit and hold still, completely still for as long as I can. Until this, everything comes back to life where I'm at and everything feels safe and they start scurrying around on the ground. And then that's how I get my squirrels. I don't actively, go out and try to spot them from a mile away and snipe them out of a tree. And that's impossible in the early season because there's still leaves everywhere. Yeah. But once the leaves fall, and I don't have dogs to just, run off and then go trounce over 200 yards when they've treed something, which is awesome. By the way,
it does sound fun, but yeah.
But yeah, you could practice that year round. And then
they might not be in the same spot though. So yeah, you can practice.
You can practice, but that's the thing. You can practice.
That's tough to tell somebody who's never hunted to say go practice it, but then they don't know what they're looking for. And then out of season, like turkeys, especially, like what they're doing in the summer is different. As far as like the area they're going to use is way different than the area they're going to use in the spring or even the fall. I mean, the fall and summer are more of a in line as far as that goes. So you find them in the summer, you probably be able to find them where they're at in the fall, but spring, they got like kind of a larger area they're going to cover.
Yeah. But I'm not thinking so much of scouting, like, oh, this is where I'm going to hunt next fall. I'm thinking more of, oh, okay, I snuck up on a turkey to within 10 yards.
Oh, sure. Okay. So like,
or I was sitting here and they didn't notice, and I had a flock of turkeys walk right by me and they didn't notice me. I'm doing something right.
Or practice finding sign. Like, okay, I went on the internet today. I said, oh, that's what a turkey track looks like. Well, I'm going to go try and find one of those in the woods.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing, like small potatoes to start.
Yep. 100%.
Got it.
So while you're doing those things that both of you had mentioned, a really good thing to be doing this time of year, especially, is practicing your calling for turkeys. So if you haven't already and you're planning on hunting turkeys this year, try and pick up a call. You don't need to get a bunch of calls, because there are a bunch out there on the market, different styles and different brands. Just pick a call. Personally, I would recommend a pot and peg or a slate call, as they're sometimes called, just because they're sometimes the easiest to pick up. And just try and hammer out some basic turkey calls. You don't need to know the whole vocabulary, because they do make, I think, whatever, 60 some calls or something like that.
It's a crazy number. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really just need to work on the basic clucks, cuts, purrs, and yelps. And once you've got a pretty decent semblance of those, or what you think is a decent semblance of those, so get on YouTube, learn how, like, there's plenty of videos out there from reputable call makers. Primo has a series on any number of calls, including turkeys. You can find plenty of good content out there about teaching you how to use it.
Why don't you rip one right now? You got it?
I do have it right now, but the diaphragm calls will
go ahead and show the
make,
folks at home what it's about. Go ahead and rip one.
They're generally good.
Better fly, bud. Better fly.
The diaphragm calls make the mic cut out. They're too loud. Like they'll mute.
Okay. All right.
My
mouth's too dry.
Nah, I just ate spaghetti.
So read the instructions on your call. Generally, the calls will have instructions. Get on YouTube, figure out how to use it. And then once you've taught yourself what it sounds like to be a turkey, get out there in the woods doing the things you guys are talking about. Finding where the turkeys are. Finding where the turkeys are. Getting the good sign, practicing all the motions of the hunt. Make sure you're calling in there too. Talk to the turkeys. See if you can get them to respond. If you can get them to respond, great. Can you get them to come to you? If you can get them to come to you, how close can you get them?
Can you pet them?
Well, exactly. Work through these progressions of your skill and try and build your skill each time you go out.
Yeah. I used to do the same thing for duck. Like, it's not illegal to call ducks year round. And when I first got into duck hunting, like I would go like all summer long, especially while I'm fishing. If I was like bank busting off a launch or something like that, I would have my duck call on me.
That's
and
smart.
I would just call ducks.
I got to do that this year.
Yeah, I look like an idiot.
Yeah.
People look at you like you're strange.
Depends on where you live. You might blend in.
But yeah, you're literally just out there in the summer trying to quack at ducks, like hiding in the freaking reeds and seeing how close and seeing if you can get them looking and quacking back and stuff like that. I used to do that all the time, just year round. Practice your duck calling. Going for a drive.
I got to do that.
Start quacking.
I mean, that's what I did with the turkey diaphragm last year. Like I like you said, Alex, I bought the slate call. And then I would actually, I'm glad I kind of circle back on this because I did want to make a comment, but I didn't want to interrupt you. The easiest call for an absolute beginner would actually be a push box. So of all the calls out there, a push box, you literally go like this. That's it. Anybody can do it. And you will get you will kill turkeys with that sound. So if you first season and you don't, if that's where you want to start, go for it. That is the easiest one. Slate is also very easy, and you can produce a lot of sounds with it. It's nice. It does not function well in the rain, as far as friction calls go. So glass, like there's different types of surface material for your pot, which is, a pot and peg is another name for the circle thing that you hold in your hand, and the pencil looking thing that's usually wood, which is a striker. So pot and peg, striker, slate, glass, like all these terms are kind of referring to the same call. But the different surfaces will function differently in different weather conditions. And in the spring, rain's a real factor. Like turkey hunting in the rain, definitely going to happen. And slate does not play nice with rain, any sort of water. So your sound's not going to really work. Glass does work with some rain. So if that's your go-to pot and peg, I would have 2 different types of materials for your pot, so that you can switch back and forth and still make the calls. And you're going to have to scratch it. There's conditioning pads that they come with, and those function to rough up the surface of the material. So whether it's glass or slate, you've got to rough it up to create grooves for that wood of the strike indicator to go over to create the friction to produce the call. And that's not super intuitive. for, it seems like it should be, but it wasn't for me. So whatever, maybe I'm an outlier, maybe I'm not, but you're hearing it now. So take the pad, and I bet if you read the instructions, it probably says this, but I did not do that. So if you just scratch the surface of your pot, you get these friction, or you get these grooves that you can then create friction with your strike indicator. Or now we're talking trout. Through your striker, and then the glass will work in the rain. So that you want to switch back and forth. The glass is also going to produce a louder call in general compared to the slate, but I'm just talking about the moisture at this point. The other thing I wanted to point out is a box call. Depending on which kind of research you're doing on YouTube or reading, a lot of people will tell you if you want to own one call, a box call is the call to own. As far as ease of use, versatility, weather, number of calls you can make outside of a diaphragm, there's a lot of hunters that will, like, if they had to take one call into the woods, it'd be a box call. And I used that last year, and it is fantastic. It is very easy to use. You can really hammer down on it and make a loud call that cuts through wind. So the other thing you deal with besides rain on spring days is heavy winds. You're going to get days where you're going to have 30-mile-an-hour winds out there. And depending on where you're hunting, you may have to try and cut through there to get your call out far enough for a tom to hear it. And a box call is going to let you do that. You might not be able to make a loud enough call with your mouth with a diaphragm to cut through that wind. And you may not be able to rip slate loud enough. The glass may be another, I would say glass is probably another option to try on those high windy days, because you can really make loud calls with glass pot and peg. But those are going to be your two that non-diaphragm calls that are pretty easy to learn and are really versatile. So if you're not looking to have, an arsenal of calls on you, which some people would advocate for if you're going to get pretty serious about it, but just starting off and you want to pick one, those are real versatile. They're not like diaphragm dependent. So like, I feel like the learning curve for diaphragms are just kind of in a separate category in and of themselves. And some people may never use a diaphragm. So start with like a box or a slate glass combo, and then you can work your way up to a diaphragm, because it's practice. I put a diaphragm in. Why don't we just take a TV timeout?
No, he puts the diaphragm call in too. He's putting it in right now.
Right in his anus.
Silas,
what are you hammering there, Al? You got some gummies, or what's going on? Oh, yeah. Shit. I was just going to do a real mouth call. Just hammer with the old mouth, just get after it.
Yeah, that was nice.
Woo! No, but what I was saying is, like, the diaphragm is not natural. Like, it just isn't. What I would recommend is, if you want to try and learn it, throw it in your vehicle. And I did this last winter, and I would pop it in between runs. So like, I was running errands, going to the grocery store, going to the hardware store, whatever, going to work, and just call a couple times. Like, even if you're in the car for 10 minutes and you do that for the entire winter, it adds up. And by the springtime, you're going to have a lot under your belt, and you're not going to feel like you really didn't sacrifice a lot of time learning. It's just going to kind of like, you're going to accumulate those hours of practicing without really knowing it. But that's the easiest way to do it, without having to go out of your way to schedule trips, go on hikes, whatever. Put it in your vehicle and just hammer it when you're running errands and just figure it out. Like, that was the way I did it. It worked really well. Cause like, by the time spring came around, I was like, I'm not awesome. I'm definitely not winning any contests, but I can make some basic calls. And I felt confident that I could have it in. And if a bird came in close on me and caught me off guard and I couldn't move, if I had to call, I could do something basic with it. And that was just the first time putting it in, like whatever, fall. And I had it in the truck a couple months and just practice with it.
Also, take it out of your damn truck. Take it out of your truck and sanitize it. I found out that
no, come on.
Yeah, the fastest way to go ahead and just give yourself just one of the best sore throats you've ever had in your life, just slobber all over that thing and keep it in your car and never take it out and wash it. And then every time you're in the car, do it. Yeah, I did that.
Delicious.
Delicious. Makes sense. This is probably why my throat...
Petri dish science experiment.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, make sure you clean the damn thing.
It's a good point. It does go in your mouth, and yeah, you want to be a little sanitary. Yeah. I don't know.
And while we're on the subject of call maintenance, and while we're talking about that, just to rewind to your slight comment about roughing the surface, if folks aren't reading the instructions and are relying on this to inform you on how to do it, if you're roughing the surface, do it in one direction constantly. Don't do circles. Don't do up and down.
Write your name. I wrote my name.
Don't do that. So just do one. Choose either horizontal or vertical, because you're going to run the striker perpendicular to that. So you want to have one consistent groove pattern, and you don't want to brush the standings into the grooves to fill the grooves. So just do one direction and then blow the excess away.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
And then I would say the other things going, also circling back, but be wary if you're in the woods with 30-mile-an-hour winds. That's, a lot of those trees aren't as solid as they look. That's how people get tree limbs to knock them the hell out, or trees themselves. And then, do turkeys do they move in the rain?
Oh yeah. That's so the reason you hunt the first turkey I ever saw while turkey hunting was in a downpour rain that was raining sideways in 20-mile-an-hour winds. I was walking in, I was schlepping a blind, a decoy bag, and my crossbow. First season ever hunting turkeys or deer. I had a crossbow. I had a recurve, and I didn't feel ethical with the recurve. So I bought a crossbow, sighted it. I'm going out in the spring. It's first time ever out. I'm walking down this hill, and rain is pounding me in the side, this way into my face. And I turn a corner and I looked up, and there's a Jake just walking the field edge, and 20 yards. Never saw me, never heard me because I'm downwind. So the wind's just howling, and he's upwind of me, and he's walking away from me. So I'm in the moment, I'm like, okay, here we go. There's two things that are going to happen. I'm either going to drop everything. My crossbow was not ready. So I had to cock my crossbow, drop all my gear, and hope that I get a shooting window within 25, 30 yards here. When this Jake's cutting, and I'm going to hit a brush window where I can shoot through. Or I try and sneak down and set up where I was going to set up, because he's 15 yards to the left of where I was going to set up, period. I'm like, well, maybe there's other turkeys. If I can set up in this high wind and they just don't catch me setting up, then I could call them back. And I might be able to call something else back that's around. But, turns out I decided to try and set up because I was just starting my hunt. I'm like, if I drop everything, I probably should have, in the retrospect, I probably should have dropped everything, see if I could make some magic happen and just stalk them. But I ended up deciding to set up shop and call in the howling wind and rain. Never saw another bird again, probably just alone. It was late season. It was late May, and it was just lone bird walking around. But
that bird is illustrative of a common turkey behavior. So to your point, Sam, about the conditions, their advantage is visual and audio. So if they're in the woods, in a thick woods, when the rain is pouring and the wind is howling, they can't hear and they can't see, which they don't do well with. So they make for the field edges, the open territory that they can see, and probably where that bird was, Dustin. I mean, I don't know what it was doing there at the time, but it's generally where they're going to make for. When it's raining and windy, you can have some of your best days, because you generally know the turkeys are making for open areas.
A majority of the time they're going to a field, and they're going to go to the middle of the field, because then they can see all the way around them. Their biggest concern is predators ambushing them, because you're right, they lose their senses of protection. They're hearing, they can't hear predators coming up because of the wind and the rain, and they can't see them in the heavy brush. So they get out in the open, and if fail not, you drive around on a rainy spring day, you're going to see turkeys in fields. It is literally like clockwork.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's worth hunting. It's worth hunting a rainy day, which is back to the original story is like you got to plan for those wet conditions and the wind conditions when you're hunting because you're going to run into them.
You want to hunt fields.
Yeah.
You don't want to hunt inside the actual woods.
No.
Right? Okay.
No. You want to hunt open areas, not necessarily fields, but just like Alex said, open areas where they feel they have enough space to identify predators before the predators can eat them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
Anything else, turkey on?
I think we got to take a pee break, gentlemen.
I was gonna say, dude, I gotta.
Oh, go for it. I haven't been drinking anything, so I'll just pluck away here.
Oh yeah, give me a
It's a happy hour podcast, so
purr and a kiki.
welcome.
You know what my favorite part of this podcast is so far?
What's that?
I'm putting this in here. Your brother calling you out. You're an unethical hunter. You're an asshole hunting with a recurve for turkey.
Said that? I never said. Are you photoshopping me saying that?
No, you did say that. You said, I will hunt with a crossbow because it's not ethical for me to hunt with a recurve.
No, I said I wasn't ethical. Like I hadn't practiced with it enough.
Oh, you're an asshole. You called your brother unethical.
I was talking about me personally. I wasn't ethical with
He
it.
bears his soul about his trials and tribulations of trying to bag a turkey with a recurve, and you call him an unethical hunter.
Fuck, dude, no, I'm all about that. If you're dude, I just hadn't shot it enough to shoot it at an animal. I wasn't to the dumb level yet. I couldn't do it.
He hadn't watched enough Tim Wells.
Right?
He wasn't in the game.
Oh shit. I think it's the only hunting implement that I had at the time. I did not have a crossbow, so or a gun.
I bought some chalk for this bad boy. I haven't busted these out from last year.
I got a box call for Christmas. Do you got to chalk those box calls?
Some yes, some you don't have to. Like mine, you don't have to chalk.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to chalk all of them. See, that's where the chalk goes. Chalk
not
there,
cheap.
and you chalk and chalk there.
You don't have
What
to
do
chalk all
you
of
got a
them.
box call? You don't chalk, dude.
Does it have?
Yes.
Does it have like a different material outside of just wood? Does it have like?
Is it
slate or
not?
something?
Yeah, is it not wood?
It's wood. It's maple and cherry. It's just weatherproof. So it I don't know. You just don't have to chalk it. It's the Bottomland or not Bottomland. Whatever the hell the Bass Pro and Cabela's
Do they
was.
advertise that you don't have to chalk it?
Yes.
No chalks. Save some money on that chalk.
I haven't had to
You just-
chalk it yet. Yeah,
you
let's
just
hear it,
use-
Dustin.
What? What's going
Let's
on?
hear it.
Yeah, it does cut out.
Mm.
It's piercing.
Those calls aren't made for subtlety, usually.
No. Yeah, that sounds not great.
Yeah.
But then again, there's some freaking turkey bit. That was the other, kind of thing that like Meat Eater went over like a couple weeks ago. They had a podcast going like unbelievable turkey videos where there's like a freaking hen who calls like 77 times in a row, just doesn't shut up.
Just
You're
hammer.
like, right, like if
Fucking
you heard
Jonesed
that,
up.
you're like, this is the worst hunter ever.
Mhm.
But it's an actual
But
video
it's a
of a
real
turkey
hen.
just doing it. So
That's
you just
and,
hear that.
you know, so if there was one more thing to touch on in the turkey thing before we move on, is that you can just hammer and like, let me just take this out.
or not call at all.
Right. Especially on public land, and not calling it all is probably going to get you more birds than hammering.
So yes, in the spring, if you want to err on the side of not doing anything, go silent. In the fall, err on the side of trying shit. Because in the fall, there are all sorts of calls, both male and female and young, that you could literally make the worst call ever and learn, and you can bring birds to you because you've got poults that are learning to call in the wild and they can't make the calls right yet. So you could actually call a flock to you thinking that's a flock thinking you're a poult. So in the fall, you want to just empty your bag, try everything, because you can't really screw up a fall hunt with any call. Like you're not going to like call and screw up the hunt. Now, are there calls that are going to work better for your situation? Probably. But if you're trying to go out and try stuff, that's the time to do it. And like you said, in the spring, if you want to err on the side of caution, don't call at all.
Yeah. Whoa, easy. You're really putting an end to that statement, huh? Don't call at all. Crack it. Shit.
They're hot.
Same. See what other kind of goodies I got in the old box of tricks.
Sender, bud.
This is a slate call, which you can see how very smooth that is. There is not a lot of grooves on that, baby. Very quiet. This should not interrupt the microphone at all because there's no friction. there's got to be grooves that have friction. Can you hear it? Yeah, me neither. There needs to be grooves.
Nice.
So this is a conditioning pad, and it comes with the call. So take it out of there. And actually, I believe this is for the glass call. So it's kind of like it looks like a screen, but it's actually super rough like sandpaper. And this is more like steel wool. I'm just going to use this on here because I don't know where my slate conditioning thing is. But so I'm going to
That
go
side should be fine.
in the same direction. And you can see some lines on there, right? And you don't have to paint the whole damn thing. It's just ridiculous. You just need one spot where you're going to strike it. Okay. Look, get in there. That's it. That's all you need. Now you've got grooves that you can take your wood striker. And if you're not an idiot, you can figure this out. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to work on the microphone.
Well, you're holding
I'm trying not to blow it out.
You're holding striker like a barbarian.
Well, I've got this box in my lap. I'm sending you a love note.
It's not a bad purr. Oh, there you go.
Is it low enough that you can? I'm trying not to rip it because it's just gonna
rip it.
We can hear that. So that's a purr for folks listening, and that's the sound turkeys make when they're usually feeding or they're content. They just want to tell people, and by people I mean the other turkeys, that yeah.
Oh, Alex's internet's going out. Yeah, no. We don't have the studio equipment for that. Let's put it that way.
Our budget is low. Yeah. All right, so this is a glass call. Same deal. We're gonna get it.
It's there. I see it. The white patch. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's where you're gonna rough that up. And same thing. You're gonna take the back side of that pad and the rougher side, and you're just gonna rough up the glass.
And also, folks at home, the pot is only one half of the equation. You can also rough up your striker, which is recommended.
And you can change the type of wood on the striker to get different sounds. So this is cherry. This is maple. This might be the maple. That might have been something else, oak or pine or something. Anyway, you can change that up, but. So yeah. Anyway, just some examples of other turkey calls in the box of goodies.
Yeah, that was. It did. Huh? It didn't sound great.
Well, then just edit it out.
I know.
Grandmaster.
I'm gonna edit the shit out of that.
Please do.
So what are we moving on to now? For the
open water, baby.
All right. And some bass, some crappies, some gills. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I went sailing.
I went ahead and washed some lures. That was all I did.
I have not fished open water yet.
I have, and it did not go well. I mean, I didn't put a lot, but it was literally a break. Like, it was just so weird that it was a 38 degree temperature swing for a minute.